Chavre, how are you? I hope everyone is gesund, stark, und freilich, begashmus und beruchnis. I hope everyone is healthy, strong, and happy physically and spiritually. Today is Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Parshas Beshalach, Shabbos Shira, and it's Erev Shabbos Kodesh Yud Shvat. Yud Shvat is the Yom Elul, the Yortzeit, the Istalkus of the previous Rebbe, and it's the day which the Rebbe, Yud Yud Aleph Shvat, became the leader of our generation, called the seventh generation of Chabad. So it's a very, very special day, a very huge day, an important day. And what is the connection, as usual, between Shabbos Parshas Beshalach and Yud Shvat, as we'll discuss soon. Before that, since the war started, we started, adding tzedakah. The war should end now. All the hostages return home. Mashiach now. We'll say a prayer connected to the theme that we're talking about today, which is going to be Shabbos. The concept of Shabbos and how it relates and how it's so fundamental and one of the foundations of all of Judaism. Mizmar Shir L'Yom HaShabbos, a song for the Shabbos day. Tevle this ladino yulazam l'shimcha elyon. It is good to praise the Lord and to sing to your name. This week's parsha has jam-packed from beginning to end. The beginning of the parsha talks about how Paroi gives chase after the Yidden, and we come to the splitting of the sea, one of the greatest miracles of all time, and we come to Oz Yoshir. And then we have the miracle of the man, the food that came down from heaven. And then we have the war with Amalek. So it's a jam-packed parsha. But according to some commentaries, this week's parsha also has a lav, one of the negative commandments from the Torah. Not everyone agrees that it's a biblical deraisa lav, but nevertheless, it's for sure a prohibition that's spoken about in this Shabbos and this parsha. And that's the concept of Tchum Shabbos. First, let's read the verse inside, and then we'll talk about it. The pasuk. Okay, so it says Hashem gave us the man every single day, and Moshe Rabbeinu gave over to the Yidden that for Shabbos nobody should collect the man. It didn't fall on Shabbos. They received a double portion on Friday. And concerning Shabbos, the pasuk says, Kapitel Tezayim, pasuk Chav Tes, Re'u ki Hashem nosan lechem HaShabbos. He gave you the Shabbos. Al keinu nosan lechem be'im Hashishi lechem yemoyim. He gave you double on Friday. Shvu ish tachtov al yetze ish mem koimoy b'yoyim hashvi. The pasuk says that every man shall remain where he is. Let no man leave his place on the seventh day. To gather man. Here Hashem made an additional Shabbos law take effect. The prohibition of leaving a settled area, that's called Tchum Shabbos. There's a border, the Shabbos border. It has boundaries. There's a limit to how much you're allowed to walk from a settled neighborhood, how far you're allowed to walk, and where you have to stop. That's called Tchum Shabbos. So what's the concept of Tchum Shabbos? And what is the lesson of Tchum Shabbos? As everything in Yiddishkeit, Torah Milosh Ra, there's a lesson, there's an instruction, there's a teaching that we have to take out of it. And how fundamental and relevant is this teaching today? In our times, as I've spoken usually, one of the things that's so amazing about Yiddishkeit is that we received the Torah over 3,300 years ago, and there's concepts, themes that weren't discovered in the modern world until 50 years ago or less, that Yidden, Jews, knew about it for thousands and thousands of years from the Torah. And one of them is mindfulness and be present. That's one of the themes of the mitzvah of Tchum Shabbos. the prohibition. So let's first talk about this main theme, and then I'll speak about one other theme that the Rebbe learns from Tchum Shabbos. So the idea is, what's Shabbos in general? We spoke many times how the further we get in history, like more modern, more sophisticated, more we've made progress, we see again and again how the old eternal values of Torah are just mind-boggling. One of them is the concept of Shabbos. What's Shabbos? Shabbos, in a way, is before Matan Torah. Shabbos is the day that the Eibishter rested. On the seventh day, it says he created the world, and on the seventh day he rested. As we spoke many times, in this world where everyone is inundated, overwhelmed, from emails, WhatsApp, social media, notifications, we have something, the day of Shabbos, which says silence. We go away from everything that's mundane and we go inward. We have nothing to do with email, nothing to do with social media, nothing to do with WhatsApp, nothing to do with the phone, nothing to do with the mundane active world, so to speak. Everyone's into producing content, output, being active, be proactive, all those things. The hustle and bustle. And it's overwhelming. Let's call it the noise. And right now, the latest thing, I don't know if I ever mentioned this, Australia is the first country in the world that's made a ban that under 16-year-olds are not allowed to have social media. So this is a big, big problem. I'm saying in the world, in the secular world. And here we're telling the world that the Jewish nation received the Torah, and in the Torah there's one of the commandments about Shabbos. There's a lot of commandments connected to Shabbos. And what's the idea of Shabbos? It was how the Eibishter put into the world Higdim Refuah L'Makkah. He injected into the cycle, into the existence, into the reality of the world, something which gives us the ability to transcend this whole problem in the first place. And that's Shabbos, the training of a person to remain focused and inward. So, that's the idea of Shabbos. As the pasuk over here before, previously, a couple of psukim, it says Shabbos, Shabbosin, Kodesh L'Hashem. What does that mean? So, the idea is, we're talking about the first point. We're going to say 2 points today. First, we're going to speak a point which is not really so much connected to the idea of holiness and to Judaism as the idea of being true to you, who you are. But first, let's go to the idea of the modern world has the concept of being present, mindfulness, okay? I'm talking about that first because that's the more popular concept today. So there's a Sikh of the Rebbe in Shabbos Pashas Pinchas, Tafshin Nun Aleph, where he spoke about this. And he said a story that happened with the Rebbe Rashab, who was the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he was by a Farbring in a gathering, and the Rebbe Rashab was very famous for his abstract, deep Hasidic philosophical talks. The deepest Hasidic philosophical talks, in general, is what the Rebbe Rashab is known for. Anyways, and the students and the Hasidim and the followers, they loved listening to his talks. They were totally immersed in that deep, profound concepts that he was speaking about. But as a Farbrengen, the style, the system, there's a sequence. You sing songs, then you talk, take a pause, l'chaim, you sing the Hasidic melodies. The Rebbe Rashab noticed once by one of these gatherings that when it came to the song, they really weren't so invested in the song. They were rushing the song, so to speak. They weren't savoring the moments of the song and appreciating it properly. They put the song on fast speed, double speed, because they really were anxious and eager to listen to the deep concept. And the Rebbe Rashab gave a whole talk by this gathering, how a pnimi, an inward directed person, a dorten wo is darf sein in ganzen, Wherever he's at, he has to be total. So therefore, if this part of the gathering is singing a song, now we're singing the song. Be present. Be in the moment. When we're singing the song, nothing else exists except we're singing the song. Make the most of this moment. Then we're going to speak the concepts, the philosophy, the ideology, the study of the subjects. But right now we're singing a song. Throw yourself into the song and the singing totally. That's what it means to be, one of the definitions of being a pnimi. By the way, in Chabad, there's a word, say, be a pnimi. This word pnimi has many, many layers and many interpretations. One of the definitions of being a pnimi, which let's translate an inward directed person, is that you focus on what is happening at the moment and you're there totally. You're not looking at your clock, you're not thinking about what's happening in 10 minutes. You're here now in the present. And that's what means, one of the definitions of being a pnimi. Another definition of being a pnimi is, for example, you don't seek outside help. You try to do it alone. Ownership, responsibility. It's yours. That's also being a pnimi. Another idea of being a pnimi is when you're doing something, it's not because you're advertising it, that other people should know about it. It's about the thing, because the thing itself is important, etc. So there's many different meanings of what it means to be a pnimi, but in Chabad Lubavitch, this was a very, very major virtue and value. So now we're saying that one level of interpretation of what it means. One of the lessons of Shabbos is remain home. Remain in your space. Remain focused where you're at. That's it. Focus everything to get totally involved here and now. Not outside, not further, not somewhere else, but right here and now. That's what it means, this mitzvah, according to many commentaries. Now, there's many stories, just to bring out this point. One of the most famous stories, very geschmack, a story is a story that the Friedrich Rebbe says about himself, that when he was a child learning in school, in Cheder, he used to have a habit to stare out the window. And when he said over the story, he said you could imagine what was there ready to see in the village of Lubavitch outside the window. A couple of goats, a couple of chicken. But nevertheless, this was his habit. So his Melamed, his teacher, told him, Besser sein von den Drößen gucken in wenig, wie sein inne wenig gucken in Drößen. Better to be on the outside looking inside than being on the inside looking outside. This is a general lesson which could be interpreted in many levels, but concerning a person who's at the center, this is the center. This is where it's at. If you're here and you're looking at the outside, you're staring out the window, instead of being involved in the learning, your heart is somewhere else. If your heart's somewhere else, in a way, it's like you're not here. You have to learn how to be here. So that's one story. Better be on the outside, looking inside, which means this is the lesson, that a person can be outside. He's not there yet at the right place, but if he's focused on being in the right place, if his desire is to reach the right place, if his aspiration is to reach the right place, he'll get to the right place. But if you're on the inside and you're looking outside, then you've lost everything, because sooner or later you're actually going to go on the outside, and in a certain sense it means you're there already, which means conceptually, if you're in your house on Shabbos, in your borders, in the right tchum, but you're not really there because you're thinking about your business or you're thinking about mundane things, that means you're not really here. So that's part of the mitzvah. Be here. There's another famous story they say about the Baditchev. He was in shul in Baditchev, and he went over to one of his mispalel, and one of the people, the congregants in the minyan, after davening, and he walked over to him after davening with a huge Shalom Aleichem, like, greetings, how are you? As if he just walked through the door and he came from somewhere else. So the guy said, the congregant said to the B'lev Yitzchak, what do you mean? I was here the whole time. What's the Shalom Aleichem? So the Levitzer said, during davening, your mind wandered to Warsaw. You were somewhere else and you were thinking about your business. As soon as the davening ended, you came back to this room. So therefore I told you, Shalom Aleichem, you just arrived. You were gone the whole time. That's why you say, you're here in body, but not in spirit. When someone's here in body, not in spirit, he's not here. So that's one lesson from this concept of Tchum Shabbos. Another lesson is the idea, this is that I spoke on Rosh Chodesh Sivan, Tov Mem Hey. This is the idea, and also connected to Shabbos more and more, the idea of Yiddishkeit as who we are, more connected to the existential being of a Jew. You have to always remember your home. That's what it means. Al Yetze Ish Mem Koimoi. Man should not leave his place. Like they say, you'll never know where you're going. You can't know where you're going unless you know where you came from. That means that a Yid, even during the week in a way, my name is Baruch and Kuli Yom, and the rest of the week doesn't become Shabbos, but in a way the spirit of Shabbos is carried throughout the whole week. It's not only no matter where you may roam, you can always come back home. It's deeper. No matter where you may roam, you are always home. That's the point. Wherever you are, this is the concept that the Rebbe explained by that Farbrengen about what this mitzvah really means. Means a Jew has to know his home. A Jew has to know his place. A Jew has to know his real place. That's what it means in life, wherever you're going to be. You could be living in New Zealand, you could live in Pakistan, you could live in Afghanistan. Wherever you're living, a Jew is a Jew. He carries with him his home all over, wherever. There's your centrality. There's your sanctuary. There's your haven. There's your protection. There's your cocoon that goes with you wherever you are. Your security shield. Your iron dome. Your home. And that's the second point of this mitzvah, this concept. And everything we're speaking about today is connected to the idea of Shabbos. So we see how important Shabbos is and what the message of Shabbos is for the year 2025. By the way, there's one of my favorite stories is that there was once a disciple of one of these Hasidic masters that was once asked, what was the most important thing to your master? And the disciple answered, whatever he was involved in at the moment. Wow. Fantastic response. In other words, this answer also has many layers of interpretation. In general, it means that there was nothing more important or less important. If something's true, then it's 100% true. If something's important, then it's totally important. What was the most important matter to your master? Whatever he was involved in at the moment, and that means he was totally involved. Because if I'm doing this at this point in time, there's nothing more important. Whatever I'm doing is important, because my life is not a trivial matter. Nothing is insignificant. And whatever I'm doing, I totally do. And this is the connection to Yud Shvat. By the Farbrengen, where the Rebbe took over, talking about the flow, the succession from the 6th generation, who was the previous Rebbe, and the 7th generation, our generation, there are some things as time goes on, sometimes we forget the lingo, the language, the sprach of what's Chassidish Yidden, how a Chassidic Jew talks, how he lives his life. So one of the things, as I just mentioned, that was a very major part of the Hasidic lingo, the language of the 5th generation, the Rebbe Rashab, and the Friedrich Rebbe, the 6th generation, and the 7th generation, is being a Pnimi. So at the first official Farbrengen of Yud Aleph Shvat Tafshin Aleph, the Rebbe said that Medar Falein Mahapach Zayin the Eigene Nefesh Ba'ames. One has to transform his own inner animal, and the point of that is you gotta do it. Not because someone's gonna help you, not because you're gonna say without this person's help I'm gonna be helpless, not because you're gonna look for excuses, it's my t-shirt's fault, it's my parents' fault. You gotta do it. Man has to transform himself and work on himself constantly. Now, of course, if you're looking for help, you'll find the help. But it's the approach, it's the attitude. That's what it means to be a pnimi. There's also a yem yem which says a pnimi bet nishkim brachas. He's not looking to always be helped. And if nobody helps him, he's just saying, I'm helpless. No, he works on himself, taking responsibility to do whatever he can to the best of his ability. So by the first Farbrengen of the 7th generation, in 1951, the Rebbe repeated this, Medar Falein Mahapach Zayin the Eigene Nefesh Ba'ames, which is the idea of being a Pnimi. And the truth is, this is connected to all the generations of Chabad. There are some central themes that run through from the Alter Rebbe in the 1800s till this very day, to the year 2025. And one of them is Chabad Mond Pnimius. Chabad demands Pnimius, inwardness. And this is from day one. Chabad Chassidus was about Avodah B'koyach Atzmoi. It's your own work, your own efforts. You're inward directed, constantly always working on yourself, examining your motives, becoming better, demanding more of yourself, aspiring for higher. These are all things connected to Pnimis. So the Eibusher should help that we should cherish Shabbos Kodesh. Know your home, know your roots, know where you came from. Be at the source. That's what Shabbos is. One of the Chassidus talks about Shabbos is the Oisius Toshev. Toshev means to return to your roots, return to your source. So one idea is, the first idea that we spoke about is that instead of being in a mode of output and producing content, that's one idea in your life, one mode. There's the idea, no, you have to recharge the battery, serenity. That's what Shabbos is. Going back to the source. And when you recharge the battery, the more you recharge your battery, the more successful you could then further go and have more output. But it's all because of the energy that you got from the source that's carrying you through all the time, giving you the energy to produce. One idea. The other idea, being present. And everything else we spoke about today. So the Eibusher should help that if we do our part, Mahapach Zayin the Eigene Nefesh Ba'ames, working ourselves in inwardness, becoming better people, will impact the world, that will come to the day of Yom Shekuloi Shabbos Menucha. What's going to happen when Mashiach comes? We're going to be finished with working and being busy, doing mundane things and output, but we're going to be going inward, higher and higher levels of bliss, being connected and one and intimate with the source. May Hashem help that it should happen now. And Yud Shvat is the Yom Elul of the Friedrich Rebbe, the merit of the Friedrich Rebbe and the merit of the Rebbe should bring blessings to every single Yid wherever they are throughout the entire world. B'chol b'nei Yisrael, b'chol makom shehu. Everyone should be blessed. And like we said, we should come to the Yom Shekuloi Shabbos Menucha, Mashiach now, Begula Mitzvah Shlema. Posting from my home, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, your man in Melbourne.